Okay.
How's it, Ed? Just wanted to give you a good look at the new downwinder so far. Coin named the Double Shaka. In particular, I wanted you to see, well, here's a view of the deck. Thing's dead flat. It was really stable. Felt good to me. All the curves are working up into the deck, which for me gave it was a really nice, great platform when paddling. It feels like the Shaka, and compared to this one, it could totally just be me, has a slight concave in the deck compared to this. This one feels flat, and there's definitely no dome to it, so that's a good thing. But anyways, you can see the outline of the board. Put the Shaka next to it, just for comparisons. Obviously, you know, as a designer, how they compare. But I want you to see a few of the small things that comes out in the finish shaping. We noticed, you and I spoke about the sharp rails that are really through, kind of about a third of the way back to, almost fully into the tail. Thing's dirty.
Okay.
Another thing that we noticed was a difference in the fin placement. This one's 12.5 inches, the box off the tail, whereas the Shaka was 18 inches. And with this fin fully forward compared to that one, obviously that thing's such a Cadillac, it's so stable. But this is a side note for you. You probably know that fin placement better than I would, and the characteristics it gives the board. But maybe it has something to do with that water flow through this deep V and that little waggle rail where they're in the troughs. One more thing was the concaves. See if we can capture it for you. Board's got V all the way throughout. Up in the nose, obviously there's a ton in the displacement nose. And then coming back, flattens out, kind of under your feet. That's as flat as it gets. A lot of V through the whole thing. Excuse us if we're being redundant if you already know all this, but one thing we saw, I think right about here, just behind the midpoint of the board, was in that V does lend to double concave by maybe a millimeter, 2 millimeters in the deepest set of the concaves. Hopefully the light's poking through the bottom of the level there on our straight edge so you can see it. Then the last third is you get into this really deep V. Concaves foil out flat, and it just really crowns out around the fins and on the fin box. Maybe Gary can get the profile a little bit to show how much the foam floor of the board, nose to tail. One of the designs we loved on an Ed is the nose. It's definitely extreme, but this, we're calling it the beak. It's amazing how much it looks like the top of the beak coming down, but it pierces through the trough without losing speed going into the wave that's in front of you and sheds water really well. It really foils back. It doesn't even give much splash or bow wave and paddling in flat water. It really seems to shed water really good and keep speed in the troughs of the steeper wind swell that we had today. At 24 inches back, just to make sure if it compares with your file, and granted I'm not using straight edge, I'm just eyeballing this here, but 16 inches at 24 inches compared to 21.5 on the Shaka, so amazing at how it pierces through, and it looks, I mean, it looks like a surf ski, the nose of the board does. And I would consider that one of the best attributes of it today in paddling, in looking at the way the water flowed on the board compared to the Shaka.
Hey Ed, long time no see. I still haven't seen you, but now you see me. Here a little longer. I had a chance to ride both boards as well, and I'd come from a place, I call myself more of a recreational paddler, and I'd call Jens more of a professional paddler, and I think that's the substantial difference I see between these two boards. This is more of a pro board, and I'd say that's more of a recreational board. The Shaka mainline production board is a fantastic board, family board, well suited for just about everything, and except for maybe surfing, you know. But I think that's where your market is families. You can use it for downwind, you know, and all that good stuff I said before. That said, the biggest differences I saw between these boards in terms of me riding them was that this board is cradles a little bit, and what I mean by that, it wants to go side to side a little bit. So what that really does is it makes you use your legs a little bit more. So we were out there in less demanding conditions today, but I was working harder. So that isn't to say that's a bad thing. It's just one of those things where if you want a board that's a little less forgiving than the Shaka, and a board that's probably faster and lighter, then you would want this one in the carbon. Which leads me to a couple of things I wanted to say positive about this. I love the nose. I love this beak, this penetrating nose. I felt really comfortable on this board with this nose. I felt like it wasn't going to purl. If it did purl, it'd go back in, it'd come back out. It goes up and over the bumps. You can get double, triple glides really easily. That, combined with the lighter weight of the carbon, made me feel like I could much more easily paddle into the next wave. So if I'm getting a double or a triple, and I'm starting to back off the back of one of the waves, I can dig in and just bring it forward. So the lightweight is a major plus for the carbon here. So you're going to probably get more waves and easier. So everything's an offset. Yeah, it's a little tippier, but it goes a little faster, and you've got that ability to drag yourself into waves a lot better because it's lighter. The difference between the major differences I see too: nose, tail pulled in, fin slot placement, but the big huge difference is the bottoms. I mean, this is like some kind of a X-14 experimental fighter jet, and that thing's just tried and true, and it works great. But the bottom on this, with how domed it is, does look like a surf ski here, and I think that's one of the reasons it works so fantastically well in the bumps. It's just great, super great. And going back here into this design is that it's really not flat any place on the deck. I guess you probably know that. I was just surprised to see it's got a little bit of V throughout the whole thing. Even when we get back into the concave part here, this reverse V or spiral V or however you want to call it, it's got V in it going to the concave, and then it comes back out here again into a pretty pronounced V. Almost when you look at the board on the beach from up above, you're kind of wondering, well, where's the front, where's the nose, and where's the tail? But I think that's the nature of the beast, and I happen to think that I love that design. I love the pintail on the Shaka. I love the pintail on this. So the other big thing is the rails, the hardness of the rails. I think that also, my thought on it was, with all this V in it, it's going to make it a little bit more tippy or cradle-ish. But these hard rails are also going to help to stabilize it, I thought. It gives you that, it just gives you a more stable platform, I thought. And so one thing I was concerned about, though, is with the Nash Glide I rented and tried before I got the Shaka, I call it like this high sideboard almost. These high rails will catch the wind. So they'll catch wind in side chop and just literally push you. And for a little guy like me who's not that great of a paddler, not that strong of a paddler, I couldn't fight against it. The Shaka solved all of that. With those rounded rails, the wind and the side chop just is, I mean, it's not a factor anymore. Of course it is if it's really side choppy and real windy, but nothing compared to the Glide, which was just a nightmare to paddle in the side chop and the side wind. So I was a little skeptical on how this would work, but again, wasn't super windy today, and there wasn't a lot of side chop, but there didn't seem to be any negative part to that fact in the rails. So, I would say I don't know. I wouldn't change anything. I mean, I think this is good as is. I think it's one of those boards that's really good, and that the rider, it's going to be different than what the rider might be used to, and that the rider just needs to get used to it. It didn't take that long for either Jens or me to get used to the boards. When he got on it, he started out on it. We launched out of the beach, and I could see immediately that it was a little tippier. It was a little side to side, and I mentioned it as a little tippier. He says, "Oh yeah, it is." But then he paddled it, surfed it, rode it downwind. You know, and it wasn't an issue. No, I don't think either one of us fell off on the run. And then on that board there, you know, it's just not tippy. It's just stable. It's a rock. So we were both staying neck and neck. We were both getting a lot of rides. It's just a great design. I think it's really a great design. Again, I think if I was you're going to be your sales staff, I would probably steer people, you know, family-oriented people. Hey, this board's good for everything. You can down with it. It's really great. It is really great. I'd steer them to this Shaka, the Shaka production. And if somebody wants to get something a little bit racier, you want to go a little bit faster, then I'd steer them over. But you're going to spend a little bit more money because it's carbon. You're going to have to baby it a little bit more. Well, that's something else that I really like about the Shaka production. I don't want to baby my boards. I don't keep them in board bags. I expect them to be durable. I know they're going to get dinged up or nicked up a little bit. That's just part of the deal, and I don't care about that. I just don't want it to dent, ding, or need repair every time I turn around. The Shaka doesn't do that. It's just a great, fun family board, super durable. I can use it all the time, and I love it. This one here would be probably go well. I just don't want to have to baby it, so I don't know if I'd want to spend the extra money to go ahead and get a board that's definitely more advanced. I loved it out there. I'll probably hit these guys up to let me borrow it every once in a while on our runs, but I think it's a total winner, and I like it a lot. So that's my 2 cents worth. Probably more than 2 cents, more like $2.50. So anyway, I hope this had some value. I'll put together the other video of Jens riding the board, and we'll get that together. I'll get this thing uploaded tonight. What you're seeing right now, I'll get it uploaded today, later on today when I go home, and you'll be able to see that, a quick critique. And then it's going to take me a time to put the other one together where you'll see it in action out in the water, because I'm leaving for Southern California tomorrow. I won't be back till Sunday, and so therefore I won't have that done till next week. But as soon as I get it done, I'll get you guys an email. So, great boards though, Ed. I love them. Good job. Aloha. Blessings.